So you've got these incredibly powerful AIs, right? The ones with all these fancy, complex safety protocols. But have you ever stopped to wonder how they can be tricked into breaking their own rules? Well, it turns out the keys to the kingdom are sometimes surprisingly simple, and it reveals this fundamental tension right at the heart of modern AI.
So, how do you actually do it? How do you trick an AI that's literally designed to be helpful and harmless? It's not really about outsmarting it in the way you'd think. It's all about this practice called jailbreaking, and it really shows you this fascinating conflict that's going on with AI safety. You see, today's AIs are all built with these safety features, these guardrails. Think of them like locks. They're designed to stop the AI from answering questions about illegal stuff, hate speech, or anything dangerous. But, as we all know, for every lock, someone, somewhere is trying to find a key.
And that is exactly what jailbreaking is. It's the art of crafting a prompt, a question or a command, so cleverly that it just slips right past those safety locks. It gets the AI to do something it's been programmed not to do.
So, how does this actually work? Let's take a look at one method that is just shockingly simple but incredibly effective. Researchers call it the best of N method, and it's the perfect example of how sometimes all you need is a little brute force with a creative twist.
The whole idea is it's brilliantly simple. Imagine you're jiggling a key in a really stubborn lock. You're not trying a bunch of different keys, right? You're just taking the same one and wiggling it in slightly different ways until click. That's best of N. You take one harmful question and you just ask it over and over again with a tiny, tiny change each time.
The process itself is just a simple loop. Seriously, you start with your forbidden question, you apply a random augmentation, that's our little twist, and you fire it off to the model. You check the answer. If it says no, you just try again with a different random twist, and you do that over and over, up to N times.
So, what do these twists or augmentations actually look like? Well, for text, it can be something as simple as random capitalization, or scrambling a few letters around. For an image, maybe you add some random colored blocks in the corner. For an audio request, you just tweak the pitch a little. Stuff that seems totally harmless.
So how well does this simple jiggling of the key actually work? Get this, it's astonishingly effective. Against GPT-4o, one of the most advanced models on the planet, this method hit an 89% success rate. That's insane. Okay, so why does this work? What's the secret? It's not about finding some magic password. The whole thing exploits a core property of these giant models. They are incredibly sensitive to tiny, little variations in what you give them. A question phrased one way might hit a guardrail, but you add a little bit of random noise, and suddenly the signal takes a different path through that massive neural network, and the lock just clicks open.
Now, of course, this whole jiggling the key thing is just one tool in a much bigger toolkit. There's a whole world of clever techniques that red teamers, the people who test these systems, use to probe the defenses.
For example, you've got role-playing, where you convince the AI to act like an unfiltered persona. You might have heard of DAN, which stands for Do Anything Now. Or there's the bait and switch, where you start with a totally harmless prompt and then subtly edit it into something malicious. Every technique really just exploits a different little quirk in how the AI thinks.
And research from Keeley Technology shows that a couple of these techniques are the most reliable heavy hitters. You've got the few-shot attack, where you give the AI a few examples of the bad behavior you want, and the bait and switch attack. What's interesting is they both work by tapping into the AI's superpower, its pattern recognition, and turning it against its own safety rules.
So what kind of stuff is most likely to slip through the cracks? Well, the data's pretty clear. These models are most vulnerable to prompts that involve manipulation and coercion. Right behind that is generating misinformation and, of course, giving instructions for illegal activities. These seem to be the areas where the guardrails are the shakiest. And that brings us to a really critical question. Are all AIs equally vulnerable? The answer is a huge, resounding no. The battlefield is incredibly uneven, and some models are way, way more secure than others. The difference is just stark. I mean, look at this. On one end, you have a model like Command-R Plus getting successfully jailbroken almost 84% of the time. Then on the other end, GPT-4o is way more resilient, but it still fails nearly 29% of the time. This is not a small difference. We're talking about a massive gap in security.
I mean, let's put that in perspective for a second. That means some of these leading AI models are more than 2.5 times more likely to be successfully tricked than their competition. That is a huge, huge difference in safety performance.
And the weird thing is, the vulnerabilities aren't just about the model. They're also about the language.
The same research found that prompts written in English were way more effective at jailbreaking these AIs than the exact same prompts translated into French. This probably points to a bias in the training, where safety was tested way more thoroughly in English.
And here's the real kicker. Even though developers are getting better at patching the obvious attacks, like the old Dan prompts, the core problem's still there. Even the best models can still be tricked by a creative, subtle prompt that they've just never seen before.
So, what all this points to is one conclusion. AI safety isn't a problem you just solve one time and you're done. No, this is an arms race. It's a constant battle between the people building the locks and the people finding new keys.
There's this quote from the researchers who discovered the best of none method, and it just nails it. They said that the very thing that makes these models so capable, their ability to get all the subtle nuances in language, images, and sound, is the exact same thing that makes them so vulnerable to tiny, harmless-looking changes.
And that just creates this relentless cat-and-mouse game. The developers find a weak spot, they build a stronger guardrail, and what happens? The attackers and red teamers analyze that new defense and immediately start looking for new, creative ways to get around it. It's a cycle, and it's probably not ending anytime soon.
So if you're going to remember one thing from all this, let it be this. The AI's greatest strength is also its greatest weakness. That incredible sensitivity to input and its slightly random or stochastic nature, that's what lets it be so creative and powerful. But those exact same things create this huge, unpredictable playground for attackers to exploit.
Which leaves us with a really fascinating final question. Right now, you can jailbreak a super powerful AI with not much more than random capital letters. So as these systems get exponentially smarter, will breaking them get more complicated? Or will there always be a simple key just waiting to be jiggled in the lock?